Welcome back, folks. And we're talking about Bluetooth controls with George Filtsos. You know what? He's had a career in controls, Greg, from I think he was saying Leviton or Lutron and a couple other big names he dropped. Daintree was said. So he's a controls guy. He's been around in the game a long time, as long as you and I have, and he brought an interesting perspective to that part of the business.
That he did. Something to be aware of and to look at. Is a little different than what you might be doing now, but maybe you got to revisit that. Think about it for your future jobs, right?
Start saucing it up. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's what a lot of us distributors we've kind of avoid the Bluetooth question, and maybe it's time to jump in the pool. I don't know. Before we jump in the pool though, you got to go to KEYSTONETECH.com, baby. Greg, Keystone.
And we're jumping in the pool actually right now because they have Smart Loop. They have a new product. It's initial, it's starting, but it's going to be something they're actively going after, and I've had discussions with them about it. It's going to be connected lighting that they can put right into their fixture. Exactly what we're going to talk today about on the podcast. Keystone's going to have a Bluetooth mesh wireless fixture controller that adjusts your light levels, connects your lighting. You can do everything from your phone locally. There's no the commission is easy. You can set scheduling. You can share access to others. Basically, take care of your lighting all from your phone. Keystone's going to have it, so be ready for it.
You got to go to KEYSTONETECH.com, man. That's KeystoneTech.com. It looks like everybody took the crisis to make a control software or take lighting to the next level. There's a lot of exciting products, and I really like the sound of Keystone's offering. They're definitely a heavyweight now. So go to KEYSTONETECH.com. Of course, the National Association Innovative Lighting Distributors. Keystone's a proud member. And George, thanks for coming on the show. Here he comes straight at you. This is being recorded on November the 2nd, which happens to be my favorite day of the year. And it falls in different days. Every now and then they try to change it. There's all sorts of debate, Greg. But the Monday after fallback is always my favorite day of the year.
Why?
Everybody has an extra hours of sleep. Nobody's late. And it kind of rolls through the week a little bit until people get back to their shitbird schedules. But I had this electrician that worked for me, my first electrician, and every day he was 5 minutes late. Every single day he'd come in 5 minutes late with his boots undone or 10 minutes late. And only, I know this is how I discovered this, only on the Monday after fallback would he come in on time, 5-10 minutes early with his boots done up.
Nice.
And welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, George Filtsos.
Hey, that's good pronunciation.
Say hi to Greg Ehrich.
Greg, hey, Greg, how you doing? And thanks
George.
for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
So you're the first electrician. I called him a spark plug when we were talking before we started recording. This is the first electrician on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Greg.
It is.
And what's interesting about that is that he's also a lighting controls expert, which is very rare to find a spark plug that's a lighting controls expert. George, tell us how, I read your biography, but tell us how your interest in lighting controls started. And then, Greg and I will start picking you with questions.
You bet. It's not going to lie here. It was totally by accident how I ended up in lighting controls. And I am definitely a proud electrician. I hold that near and dear. It actually helps you get a different perspective every time you're scoping out a potential project. But how I ended up in lighting controls is kind of like I said, by accident. I ended up in lighting controls working for a manufacturer that was looking for someone to boost up their commercial lighting division. They were getting lighting controls division. Just want to be clear on that. I ended up in lighting per se by accident because I was a controls guy. So I was specializing in, at the time, industrial automation, PLCs, drives. And a manufacturer was looking for someone to head up their commercial lighting controls division for Canada. And so I at first snubbed my nose at it, to be quite honest. I thought lighting controls was a bit beneath me. And at that time, it was simple relay logic. It wasn't nothing much to it. The odd 0 to 10 volt reference controlled dimmer would be out there, but we're talking about phase control dimming and relay logic. So there wasn't nothing to it. So I kind of snubbed my nose at it. I thought it was a bit beneath me. The folks that were courting me at that time did a great job, and I thought, you know what, I could actually have some fun working here. Ended up with that company for almost 8 years, and so that's how I ended up in lighting controls. And lucky I did take that direction, because it's the most fun I've ever had at work, and it's definitely the controls for lighting have definitely evolved into something that's really neat these days. So I'm very happy the way the career path my career path took me to lighting controls.
You, in your biography here, it says that you were a founding partner of Daintree. Is that correct?
One of the founding members, not a partner, but yes,
Okay.
one of the members of Daintree Networks, and that was a big leap of faith to go with Daintree, but that was just what a wild ride that was. But yeah, I was one of the earlier members of Daintree. Had I been a bit earlier, I would have been a bit more well off, because they ended up selling the company to GE for $75 million. But I didn't quite get there early enough for that.
And what did you do when you, was it a start? Was it just starting when you got there, or was it already somewhat established? And what was your role there?
It was about 2 years into the North American market. There were 2 years around. Yeah, I'd give it, say, just under 2 years in. So I think I was number 13 at that time, and about almost 2 years later, they sold it to GE. It ended up actually being GE Current, which subsequently sold their whole lighting division. If you can imagine GE as we know it to be out of the lighting business per se, selling their whole lighting division with Current, which was rebranded as Daintree, a Daintree company. So Current sold off to industrial partners, and for an undisclosed amount. And yeah, so GE. I guess I'm going off on a tangent here, but GE's out of lighting, and they've sold their GE sold their licensed their name rather, and they needed, I guess, Daintree to make that a complete package at that time. So,
and what was your what did you do at Daintree there?
I ran the Midwest USA channel partner network. So my role there was to get all the energy efficiency solution providers on board with wireless and Evangelized wireless controls.
Evangelism is the right word.
Yeah, it was exactly that. A lot of folks like controls. Yeah, as you guys might know, are a lot of times cost prohibitive, and we were actually trying to evangelize these folks on the fact that if they went with the wireless controls, it could actually make them money, especially given the fact that at that time there was no way to get dimming references broadcast through on a broad scale without using low voltage cable.
So let me ask you something. So I've talked about in this show, I don't know if I know you've listened to a couple, but I've talked about in my career, I've been in the lighting game 21 years now. I've seen sort of two lighting control boom bust cycles. Okay. Yeah. And I think you kind of sense what I'm describing. Maybe starting 1999 to 2000, you started to see a lot of variety in, occupancy sensors, ceiling mount, extended range. You started to see an expansion of the typical lighting control, passive infrared, ultrasonic, microphonic came out. And so there was these different technologies, but they were all, based on wiring into the circuit. And that was one sort of, hey, we're going to go crazy with controls. And then it faded out a little bit. And a lot of guys wouldn't put it on projects. It was difficult to commission and calibrate. I actually got quite good at it. I did many parking garages with lighting controls. I had a video out and everything of how to do it. I really enjoyed working with those controls. Then the Incilium crowd came around, And Zillion was a great company. I'm not being critical here, but I call them that because most people know what I'm talking about. That's where you're rewiring the whole building with Cat5 cable into the light fixtures, into the controls, and that you were going to have this digital hub where you'd be able to, recommission those controls and all that sort of stuff. And that kind of busted. And now we're in a phase where, with Bluetooth mesh networks, with addressable lighting, with health effects of lighting, with COVID-19 even possibly in the mix somehow, we're looking at another surge of excitement around controls. This idea that lighting is going to be the hub or the center of the connected building. I think it's going to be another bust. That's my take. Do you think I'm wrong?
Hard to say, given the fact that the standard channel out there, let's call it, a big component of that channel is the consulting engineers. So if you're building a new facility, a new build, for example, going on and going to get that put out to tender, you need to the consulting engineers are going to be working for I guess the architect and the owner, and their grasp of the technology is what's really the bottleneck. I and not to slag the consultants out there, but they really they're really relying on manufacturers for their conduit, to be their conduit for information they gather without any real practice of their own. And that's just just a fact. I hate not to slag the way they go about doing things, but that's just how they do things. And with that, there's they leave a lot of knowledge to be had out there on the table. So I mean, if they were to spec it, then there would be a more broader acceptance, I would say. Our company right now is solely focused on Bluetooth mesh and or Zigbee or some type of wireless mesh that goes out there, because we actually do feel that it's not going to be a bust, and that we think the path to IoT and industrial IoT is through the lighting. That's our I guess focus. And that's our mission statement, let's say. And so, do I think it's going to be a bust? It could be, but we're working hard every day, so it's it's not. It's more widely accepted. So yeah, to answer your question, I mean, it could be, but I just don't see that.
So you're looking at new construction, major renovation projects. That would be your path to market with this technology?
This technology, for what we do, we're more focused on the built space already. So we're going through industrial buildings right now. Let's take an example. I just did a steel mill the other day. We're walking through the steel mill. They got these 1,000-watt metal halides, just hogging energy.
Who's got 1,000-watt metal halides? Come on. Someone's got to call that president. Buddy, you have metal halides in your factory. Are you crazy? It's 2020.
Hey, if you do,
maybe it's the heat. Maybe it's the heat, though.
Yeah, maybe that particular the heat is. They tried LED and they failed. So they need a better solution. But going back to the metal halide thing. Because of the fact that there's so many slow adopters out there, that's one of the reasons we're doing well in business. I mean, there's so many metal halides that are still out there, guys. You will not believe it. I worked 14 states running the Midwest channel for Daintree, working with ESCOs every day. And I got to say, you'd think here in Canada that the adoption rate would be, you'd think we would be a little more progressive in terms of, being sustainable. And that's leaving a lot of money on the table for operators. You think they would get it. And it's the last thing they want to do is their lighting. I'm telling you, it's the last thing they care about. As long as the lights are still working, they just want to replace them. And it's crazy. We are so far behind the folks south of the border in terms of their LED conversion. And I thought by opening this company, we would capitalize on that. And
I would take issue with that. I think Ontario is one of the. If you go to the what's that website, Greg? I think Ontario's adoption rate is second next to Massachusetts. And ahead of
I don't remember
California's.
recall it.
It's up
Shows a
there in the
map.
top 5 anyway. So I would say, but I mean, there's still tons of halides out there. But I would say that the barrier here, George, and when I look at controls, you know, the problem you have, in my opinion, and so, you know, yes, take the consulting engineers and push them aside. Let's look at lighting people for a second, distributors, lighting contractors, ESCOs. Okay. Is that every time they're pitching it, it's an add-on.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's say you pitch in taking out that 400 watt halide or 1,000 watt halide, you're going to put in, an LED fixture, 100 watt or whatever it is. Okay. You've just captured 90% of the energy savings with the changing of the light fixture, right? Now to go to controls, what's left on the table? There isn't a lot left on the table.
I beg to differ, and I'll tell you. And I'm. This is great debate, by the way, because this is what we face every day. Yeah, you're leaving. Think about the L70 ratings for fixtures. What are they? 100,000 hours. If I have a little, the cost of the economy of scale has really helped the wireless controls go out. So if I have a simple Bluetooth component on each and every fixture. As early as a couple of years ago, that was $100 per fixture as an add-on to your point.
Yep.
Now that economy of scale got that down to $20. So I can do, not to get too deep into the woods, but with the technical stuff.
Let's get into the woods, man. Let's get into the woods.
Well, we call it top-end trimming. So when you occupy the space, we put up the lights to 70% or 65%. And you guys are lighting guys. You would know some of these industrial fixtures. I mean, you can barely tell the difference between 65 and 100%. So we'll top them out at 65%. That is a big deal because that's 35%. Okay, sure, I'm not saving as many watts as I was with regards to what you first took off for savings. Like you said, 90% of it is the LED. Okay, great, that's a big chunk of the savings. But that extra 35% is low hanging fruit. But that's not to say that it's not for the savings you're going to do it. You're going to do that to prolong your investment. So now these L70 ratings for 100,000 hours, those are based on 100% output 24/7. If I'm never turning on at 100%, who knows what that does to the fixture? I don't think it's a linear relationship. If I've never hit electronics' biggest enemy is heat. So I don't think I've ever hit the limitation of that fixture ever in its life every time it turns on. So who knows what that rating could be at 100,000? Could be 120, could it be 130, could it be 150,000 hours? Who knows? You're protecting the life cycle of the investment. That's number one. Number two, and especially in the industrial commercial space, the bottom end trimming, that's huge. Back the on and off type of thing, that occupancy sensor, back in the days, and people would be waving their hands when it wasn't working correctly. That stigmata is stuck with us to this day, unfortunately. And the bottom end trimming helps us get around that. So, for example, if I turn the lights down and not off, let's say, like you said, 100 watt fixture, for example, if I turn that light down to 10%, that's 10 watts, nothing. I keep that corridor lit or that aisle lit to 10% at all times when there's no forklift and he doesn't have to wait for the latency and he's flying at, 30 miles an hour, doesn't have to wait for the lights to turn on. That's a big deal. So I might not be taking a huge chunk of energy or compound more energy savings, but life expectancy, the user friendliness, and the actual tuning of the space is really what we're after, and future proofing your investment. So I think that's a big deal. I mean, that's why we do it.
Greg,
above.
I'm gonna ask Greg a question, and then it's all you, Greg. Greg, it's all gonna be you. I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever heard, like, this is the first time I've ever heard about preserving the performance of LEDs by engaging lighting controls? Have you ever heard that before?
I've heard of high-end trimming and why that's kind of what my questions are going to be. But in terms of it lasting longer because of that, I haven't heard that that's official.
Okay.
So and that's George, where my question is coming. So let's say you have a customer that has a 400 watt metal halide, and you have a fixture that's 150 watts that would replace it normally. And but you give them a 200 watt because the rebate is higher. I don't know. I'm just throwing out some ideas here. So, but then you can get down to the 150 watt. Why not just sell them the 150 to begin with versus going above what they actually need? Or even if it's 150 and you think they can get by with 120, why not just sell them that 120? I know I'm talking wattage, but lumen is a way to do it.
Great question, and we do it. We do it every day. And you guys as lighting guys, you would have done the very same thing as over engineer and you sort of engineer for the life expectancy of the fixtures, fading over time. LEDs do the exact same thing. So over time, LEDs will be less efficient as far as output goes. So you want to over engineer for that regardless. So we always over engineer, and again, economy of scale. Here we go back to the economies of scale. The difference between 150 and a 200 watt LED is negligible when we're talking about a medium to large size project. So you want to go to the 200, or you want to go to the higher powered fixtures, and you want to scale back and do the top end trimming. I mean, it's the only way to fly as far as we're concerned. And we've been doing this for a long, we've had this company's had before coming and opening this company. I personally have had my fingerprints on millions and millions of square feet of industrial commercial space with high base and doing top end trimming and low and bottom end trimming. And I'm telling you that I've seen it for myself that this will definitely increase the life cycle of your investment. Definitely.
Amen, brother. Evangelize. Evangelize us.
What about the rebate? That's a big part of it. Does the utility company take that into account and trust that you're going to trim it down 25%?
We do that. We do that with. We actually. It depends on the track you're using, but the custom track allows us to do that. So in at least for ISO in Ontario, many of the custom tracks in all provinces and south of the border allow for controls to take place. In fact, south of the border, I'm going to suggest that they're even more advanced as far as their framework goes for these types of controls, rather. So here in Ontario, for example, it's 5 cents a kilowatt for that LED savings, that first chunk of savings that you mentioned. That let's say we go from a 400 watt to 100 watt LED, you're going to get paid 5 cents a kilowatt hour of consumption for those 300 watts that you're saving. But once we bring in the controls to the table, then we're saving 10 cents a kilowatt. So it does make for a better incentive in that regard. So when we do tune it down and all that stuff, that takes into account for that. If we do over engineer, that kind of makes up for it, and then some for the additional incentive.
So that's what I guess my question was. You think at the end of the day, generally when you over engineer something, you maybe could argue that you overpay for something. You're saying that because of rebates and incentives and savings and long-term investment, you don't see that?
I don't see that at all, and that's exactly what I'm saying. And further to that, I mean, there you got folks that are doing these LED. I'd call them turn and burn guys. They'll get in and get out the cheapest possible way, and they'll retrofit an old fixture. We don't do that. We'll actually walk away from that business, and we do every day. We don't want to put.
Good, call me. I'll take it.
Yeah.
No, I love. You know what? That's a position. Okay, so but you're allowed to have a position, right? A different positioning and go to the market with a position. We have many vendors in Nail that have different positioning from one customer to another. But I'm not writing off retrofitting. I think retrofitting is a great solution a lot of the times. Depending on the application. And I'm still not sold here, George. Let me ask you a little bit about complexity. So I understand what you're saying. I think that there are environments and applications where um, your positioning and that is correct, and that it's going to work good. And there's times when that's going to work for a client. I think it's a niche market, though. That's my opinion. Niche or niche. Greg, what do you?
Niche.
And that's just. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest with you. Like I'm not trying to argue with you about it. But let's talk a little bit about complexity. So you go in, you retrofit the facility. You now, so you're selling LED light fixtures as well as your controls. I take it. So you're selling projects.
Correct. Yeah, they're both part and parcel. They're one and the same as far as we're concerned. I think, like I said, like our path to IoT is through the light. So we'll use that $20 component that I mentioned to do energy savings today. That little $20 component is going to pay for itself with the energy savings. But in the future, if I want to go and do asset tracking or other things that I want to track with the lighting, and like you mentioned earlier, COVID, we can actually do contact tracing through the lighting. It's possible to do that now. So, I mean, there's so many other things we can spread that out to. Yeah.
Now, we're not going into the matrix yet, because we can talk about the matrix at the end. But let me ask you about complexity. Yeah, I find one of the biggest barriers with lighting controls. So primarily, as a lighting company, if I'm asked to do a project with lighting controls, I will still use legacy lighting controls primarily. Like if it, to me, will still use end of aisle way aux sensors with passive infrared, only wired to the fixture, and so on and so forth. That's just our skill set where we are as a company. I know about all this. I'm the host of the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. I still think that adds better value now. I understand the argument of down the road or whatever, but that's a different argument. My question to you is, I find that the systems that we build, where you're saying people are waving, that doesn't happen with my systems. So when we do it, we don't have any issues with, once they're commissioned and calibrated, the only thing that could go wrong is the sensor fails. But so it can be done right. The only thing I would say is that with your system, you're introducing a degree of complexity, okay? And that is the commissioning and the controls. Where is that hub? Who manages that hub when you spec out these projects, George? After installation.
That hub is with Bluetooth mesh. That hub is as simple as embedded into the fixture. All the brain is on the fixture itself. So it's embedded to the product. Each and every one of our lights that we install.
Where do you address it, though? Where are you addressing it? From a computer? From a software download? Like, where are you addressing it from? Phone?
Right there, right on your phone. I'm showing the phone
so
right there.
Is it Apple? Is it Android? Is it PC? Is it Mac?
Either or. It's either or. So our philosophy is that we take the Daintree philosophy, starting out at Daintree, taking that leap of faith, going to from a steady job into a little startup company in Palo Alto, California, where they told me, "Hey, we're going to take over and we're going to disrupt the lighting controls world." Back then, everything was all proprietary. So let's say Enlighted, or not Enlighted, that's a bad example, but Digital Lumens is an example. Digital Lumens came out with their wireless controls and fixtures, and you were sort of married to them if you were going to buy their technology, married to their lighting, married to their hardware, via their software. We believed if we could find that we would provide the best of breed wireless solution and software solution that can go on anybody's light and open the standard. That's our philosophy. It took the same philosophy here in my company, and I get best of breed controls. So I'm going to get the best possible Bluetooth control device at the most cost effective price that could be embedded on a fixture, so that you won't have to go up there if the fixture to calibrate it. You do it all from a phone. If you put the gateways in, you can do it from a computer. It all depends on what type of, how you can get as complex as you want or as simple as you want. I think the ones that are doing well for us today are the simple standalone solutions. We'll set them exactly like you're setting your legacy systems right now, Michael, and that we do it through the phone. We'll set and calibrate that through the phone, and we'll walk away, and they'll work like that till the cows come home. So that's that I think we've taken the complexity out of the situation. The only complexity added with wireless controls is mapping the unique addresses. Really, other than that, I mean, there's nothing to it now.
Now, are you guys always selling? You kind of referenced it earlier. Only new fixtures. You're never doing a retrofit of an existing.
So there's some architectural type fixtures where we can't we can't really sell a new fixture, or it just makes more sense retrofitting. So we will do retrofits. I'm not saying we don't do any. It's just a very low percentage in terms of what we do for business. And with that, I got to say our paybacks are incredible. Our paybacks on some of these industrial projects are months instead of years. So we're doing really well. Like, let's not forget, when you're putting in a new fixture into these commercial industrial spaces, that's a capital piece of equipment. And since the legislation of 2018, you can get the expedited depreciation value for that capital expense. If you're going to replace or retube or take out the tubes rather of a fluorescent fixture and put in an LED tube, that's a maintenance expense. You can write that off as an expense on your P&L, but that's not a capital expense. So you can't write off 100% depreciation in day one like you can as a new fixture. That's another reason we do it.
And do you guys partner with one company in terms of manufacture of the light fixture, or are you multiple?
Don't know if you can use the word whore on this show, but I guess if we did, we would be leaning to that types of people, I suppose. Yeah, we're loyal to a handful of manufacturers, and but that being said, we're not opposed to really anybody. We want to find the best value, best product for the customer. We treat. I mean, I come from a family business, a failed family business, to be honest. My dad's shop failed, and we walk into every single client like as if that was my family business. And with that philosophy, what would I do, knowing what I know with the experience that we have as a company? How would we retrofit this place? How would we roll this project out? And that's the philosophy we take. So we're going to look for the best deal, the best product, with the best control. And that's how we'll roll out every single project.
So you're using a variety of different controls right now. It's not always one brand on the control side.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And yeah, especially with folks that want to do something simple, like do something off a phone, then we will recommend another path, one that won't use any gateways, won't need a central mainframe computer. I don't have to poke holes in your VPN to get access to that stuff. I don't need anybody to manage it. I just want to set it and forget it. Yeah, I'm going to use a certain type of control. If you want something a little more complex, and maybe a little more bang for the buck, I suppose, I'll go another way.
Do you quote lighting controls 100% of your projects?
Almost 100% of the project, absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
In terms of you're going against competition, how are you arguing that with the owner or the person making the decision on why they should go with controls and do all that versus everyone else? Kind of what you alluded to before.
I love this question. I love this because we lose projects all the time. They think I'm selling them snake oil. It's crazy. And Michael's not sold. Michael's an astute professional in the business. He's not even sold. So imagine a customer who doesn't know, who has you know what you know, and you base your decisions on that. Imagine an operations guy who thinks you're selling him snake oil because he doesn't know. And that's what we face every day. So we lose a lot of projects, but you know what? That's okay. If you want to go and spend your money, leaving what we feel is our ton of savings, ton of longevity on the table, go for it. We'll go to the next.
Come on down over here.
And you know what? We can possibly partner up, man.
Hey, you know what? I'm always open to that sort of thing. But look, I would say that my positioning when I enter a space, so I don't start the process. Like Greg still does a lot of starting the project from the beginning, counting the lights and taking it through the sale. I come in sort of at the end with some people and help them close sales and help them work with the customer to find out what it is that they want. Maybe I'll call the president and then I'm in on the closing part of it.
Right.
And so my thing is that I think there's a market for this. I think it's a huge error. It's wonderful for me that you're walking away from all those other projects of people that don't want to do controls. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I'm happy to, if they want to do controls, I'm happy to sell them controls. My take would be this, in response to what you're saying. And look, you're representing your company, your belief, your values, and I respect that. Okay. That's not something I'm disrespecting. But, I think the approach Greg has and the approach I have and a lot of people I know in this business that have been successful for a long time is to be actually totally technology agnostic when you approach the customer and focus on listening to them and what it is that they want to buy. I don't want to be selling people hard on a particular position in the lighting industry. Greg, do you smell what the Rock is cooking here a little bit? I mean, I don't want to be telling customers. I like to listen to them and then respond to them with knowledge and then make some suggestions that maybe they could add on to something. And if they choose no, I don't fight for it. And that would be, and then I get the signature and then I'm back home with a deposit check next. And that would be more my way of doing it. And I think the reason why the boom bust cycle for control started, the first one was say 99 to 2003, the next one say 2007, 2012. Why they busted was because there's not that many applications and that people actually really understand what it is that they're going to get from the controls, and that the companies selling him know what it's going to be. And I suspect it's different with you, George, but I would suspect that if we're not able to accomplish this tunable health effects lighting, I think that is the key to the kingdom for you, is that if we're able to get this 2200K in the morning, peaking at 65K in the afternoon, and the scientists come on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. They say, Michael, Greg, whoa, you guys want to hear this because it works, and we can increase, people's sleep by 3% or 1% or that, whatever sick day. If somebody comes out with some hard facts, bro, then you're going to see Colligan and Ehrich swinging through the trees with knives in their teeth, laced with Bluetooth mesh or whatever the hell it is. Wham! But until then, man, I see it as another level of complexity where the customer, most customers are going to go, I'm saving 300 watts with these things, rebates this, costs this much more. Yeah, I like the $20. It sounds good, George. But I still think, look, obviously you're doing well and that's great. But for me, and I think for most of the listeners of Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, they're still toeing the water, man. And they're not joining you they're not doing a cannonball off the diving board. But that's probably what's best for you anyway.
It absolutely is, and I and again to right back at you, no disrespect whatsoever with what you think and what you guys are doing out there, what most companies are doing out there. We invite it. I mean, go right ahead. It's a free country. I'm not saying that this is a red states, blue states situation where I have these beliefs and you have yours, and and I'm unhealthily set on these ways. Come on, I'm just as technology agnostic as anyone. I'm definitely. It's that electrician's sensibility, that tradesman sensibility that I take with me on every single job. And going back to that, so if I'm going to go up in a facility and looking at a 60, like that steel mill I brought up, a 60-foot ceiling mounting, 60-foot mounting height, obstructions all over the place. It's just as labor intensive to go do an LED retrofit lamp as it would be changing out the fixture to a nice 80C rated fixture that's going to last them forever. I mean, that's just the way we do things. And again, no disrespect to what you guys are doing. I have seen it. I've touched it. I've tasted it. I've seen the longevity that these controls bring to the fold. I've seen the result. It's your compounded savings on top of the LED savings you're bringing them. FCA is Ford Chrysler automobiles. I was involved in their very first wireless retrofit, and thanks to FCA actually allows me to broadcast their YouTube video on my website. I have their okay to do so because it's sort of a thank you for helping them get to the wireless world. They're sold. They've been evangelized. They don't do any retrofit in North America that are wired or legacy controls. It's all wireless, guys. So hey, I'm not telling you to get off to jump on the train or get run over. I'm just telling you that that this is what we do, and I to your point, Michael. Yeah, I mean, you and just get in line to the rest of the operations folks out there. CFOs are also not sold. That's fine. We keep knocking them out of the park, and we produce the results. And you can't, the numbers don't lie. When we come back with a 94% savings based on what you guys were using before, I mean, and that's verified by the utility company who came in and didn't believe us and checked it for themselves. Hey, then we just keep delivering those in front of you, and hopefully the naysayers will come on board.
George, thank you for being a guest on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, my man.
Hey, man, it was a pleasure, and I'd like to pick it up maybe offline sometime, and it's a good dialogue, and it keeps us sharp too.
Keystone Technology, son. That's KEYSTONETECH.com. Coming in hot with Smart Loop, Greg.
Sometimes there's issues or concerns when people do this over security. And they write right on there, is it secure? Yes, with an exclamation. And you know why? It's because it does not connect to your company Wi-Fi. No passwords or confidential info to be stored. The Smart Loop actually has a QR code, which contains all of the commissioning data. And then from there, you just hammer it on your phone. You can do everything you need to with that light fixture, with that Smart Loop from Keystone. Control it, dim it, make it wild. Whatever you want, they got Keystone.
Go to KEYSTONETECH.com and stay smart with Keystone Technologies. And folks, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, we've been talking about it for years on this show. And you know what? Now's a time, with times like these, is when you need to get associated. You need representation. You need someone speaking on your behalf. Who the hell do you think kept all you guys out of lockdown? Okay, that was National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, the NAED. Who else was involved in that club? And we sent the emails out and all the
NEMA, NEMRA.
Yeah, we kept you punks out of lockdown. You're essential because of us. That's right. There's a benefit of being associated. Your association contacted the government on your behalf to maintain the essential nature of the lighting business. That's a good reason to pay $650 to Nailed. No, Greg?
That's one little reason, right? Which is actually a big reason and worth it in that value alone.
That's right.
More to it, though.
Yeah, we got the lighting distributors on the document. Boom. That's right. Now, was that the only thing that made it happen? No, but these are volume games. When governments make decisions like this, you need to hit them with some information. Let them know we're rolling with some heat here. We're needed in the economy, and so we did that. It's just one reason to join Nailed. And George, you got to join Nailed for that reason, sucker. No, I got to call him back and tell him that reason. No, he's got to get into Nailed. He's got a warehouse with light fixtures in it. He sells light bulbs. So we're going to try to bring him in. And thanks for being a guest on the show, and all you people that made it this far. Love you. Bye for now.
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. You are lost, Lord is there to find you.